From WP Speed Fix. I'm back again with a video to talk about GoDaddy and how to fix slow GoDaddy web hosting. Let's try and keep this video short. So GoDaddy is effectively like a low-cost airline. If you're on GoDaddy hosting, it's cheap, but it does the basics. But I wouldn't expect it to be fast. It's just the nature of the beast. Just like a low-cost airline, you can't expect it to be 5-star luxury. It's the same idea when you're using a cheap host. The irony is the difference in price between a cheap host and a good host is something akin to the price of a cup of coffee or maybe expensive Starbucks versus the price of a nice lunch. So we're talking about a cheap host is $5 or $10 a month. A nice lunch might be $50 to $100 a month. So the price difference when you take into account things like Google ads and SEO and rankings and making money from your website or generating leads or making sales from your website, the price difference is really nothing in the scope of running a business website. You'll find that if you are on GoDaddy and you're having problems with performance or any other problems with the website, anytime you ask them for support, their answer will be some sort of upsell or spending more money on something you probably don't need. Exactly like when you're on a low-cost airline, everything is extra. So expect it to be the same. So having an expectation that GoDaddy is going to be high performance is misplaced. So it's important to understand that from the outset. We can make GoDaddy faster, but ultimately you still, you can't expect luxury in the $2 store. You can spend more money in the $2 store, but you're still in the $2 store. So keep that in mind as we go through this. If you are generating a lot of leads or you have a high ad spend or you're spending a lot of money on SEO, you probably want to be on better hosting. These two hosts have much better performance. So if we talk about being on a better performance host or performance focused host where they're focused on quality as opposed to cheap price, Cloudways, so cways.net would be the first choice. They're a dedicated server host. So you're getting a lot of money. So it's good value in terms of price versus performance. The catch with that is that it's more technical. So you're basically running your own server. So there is a learning curve and it is more technical. So keep that in mind. The other alternative would be WP Alpha, a managed small business host. Again, not the cheapest. Actually, Cloudways can be quite cheap. If we just go back to that for a second, the pricing starts at $10 a month for a small server. So it's not even really more expensive than a lot of GoDaddy plans. WP Alpha is going to be more expensive because it's a managed host. So they're doing more for you and you have more support. But again, if you're doing SEO or running paid traffic, then you don't want to be on the cheapest. You want good quality. So those would be the two options if you're considering moving hosts. Those would be the two to look at. Let's talk about how to fix slow GoDaddy or how to make it faster at least. Before doing anything, make sure you run a speed test. So it's very common for us to see in speed optimization land that when people want to make a website faster, they just go making random changes and installing plugins and things like that without actually diagnosing the root cause of the problem or fixing specifically what is making the site slow. So we have two things to do here. So run a speed test beforehand. Our speed test tool here, wpspeedfix.com/WordPress speed test. You can access it here and it takes about 60 to 90 seconds. There's no opt-in required, so you can use it completely free and it will give you detailed advice and insights and it will tell you what is slow and what you need to do. So that'll be a good place to stop. That'd be a good first stop or a first test. The next one would be this Core Web Vitals report. So as an alternative to this WordPress speed test we have on our site, things like Google PageSpeed Insights or GTmetrix would be useful, but it's important not to optimize for scores. What you really want to optimize for is Google's Core Web Vitals metrics. So to understand what Core Web Vitals are, briefly, every time someone on a Google Chrome-based browser visits your website, Google collects the speed data from their session. So every time a page loads, they're capturing the load speed of that page and sending it back to Google servers, and they collate that into a data set called Core Web Vitals. So the Core Web Vitals data is the actual speed people are getting on the website. It's not a test. So all these test tools, including our test tool, are trying to approximate what a real user is getting in terms of speed on the website, whereas the Core Web Vitals is the actual speed of users on the website. So that's what we want to optimize for. And Google have a set of metrics and a set of timings or benchmarks that are good or needs improvement or just bad. So let's have a look on those reports for a second. You can run those again at our website. Here's a link to it. I'll just show you. It takes about 10 seconds to run. 10 seconds to run. No opt-in required. If we just generate a report, so this website is one we use as a demo. It is slow, so it's useful in terms of looking at the data. So there's 3 core vitals metrics: LCP, or largest contentful paint. This is essentially the load time. Interaction to next paint. This is responsiveness, how quickly the site responds to inputs. CLS, or layout shift. It's kind of how stable the page is when it's loading. So the best way to understand that would be, you've been to a website before and it's loading, you got to click on something and it finishes loading and now you're clicking in the wrong place. So that's what layout shift is. Then there's 2 other metrics. These are not core Web Vitals metrics, but they are Web Vitals metrics. Time to first byte. This is how quickly the server starts sending data, or how quickly the server responds to requests. And then first contentful paint, like largest contentful paint, this is the start of the site load. So when the site appears to start loading. So in terms of, you can see here that the data is based on the whole, or these metrics are based on the whole data set. So you can see here on this website, on average, 75% of the users got a 3.2 second load time. Now Google's metric for good, or a passing grade, is 75% or more of the users got a load time, or LCP time, under 2.5 seconds. So you can see here with the graph, only 68% of users got a good load time, 16% need improvement, and 16% had really poor load time. So poor is over 4-second load time. These other 2 metrics are in the green zone. So this one needs to be under 200 milliseconds, and this is not a speed, it is a computed metric. It needs to be under 0.1. So these 2 are great. Load time could be better. It's not really hugely bad, but it could be a lot better. So it needs to be at 2.5 seconds. These 2 are part of the problem, or this is part of the problem here. So you can see here, it needs to be under 800 milliseconds, so 0.8 of a second. So we're kind of nearly double that. So only 50 or 49% of users got that. So about half the users got a slow time to first byte, or the server was slow to respond, which means they're just looking at a blank screen. Same with this FCP time. So this needs to be under 1.8 seconds. So you can see here, this is actually quite slow and quite poor. Only 62% of users got a good experience here. This report also has historical data. So you can see actually the speed of this site actually got a little bit better over time, over the last 3 months. And then you can see the graphs here, so that data graphed out. But these are the metrics we want to actually optimize for these core Web Vitals metrics, the real world speed. There is a caveat here. In order for Google to have enough data about the website, you need to have at least 50 to 100 visits a day. So if you run this report and nothing happens, or it throws an error, it means you don't have enough traffic. But ultimately, those are the metrics we want to optimize for. Now let's get into some tactical stuff. So what we need to actually do here to fix the slow website. So number 1 is use a caching plugin. So in WordPress, we need to use a caching plugin. Now I assume you have a WordPress website. You need to use a caching plugin. So what a caching plugin does is pre-build the pages on the website before the visitor gets there. So it does all the database lookups, it does all the PHP processing, and then when the user hits the website, things are good to go. The pages are ready to send to the user. So without a caching plugin, all that work needs to be done for every single page load. And depending on how heavy the page is, that process can take 2 to 10 seconds, even longer in some cases. So you need a caching plugin. These are the 2 we recommend, WP Rocket or FlyingPress.net. They're both paid plugins, but they're both dirt cheap at something like, I think they're $59 a month each. Let's just have a look at the pricing here. In terms of which one to use, so that's 50 websites. Oh, there we go. So one website it's on special now, $45, but normally it's $59. I think they're both $59. In terms of which one to use, you only use one. But WP Rocket is a bit more DIY friendly. It's a bit more simple in terms of configuration. It's a bit more, I wouldn't say reliable, but it's less complex and it's less aggressive in its optimization. So it's better suited to more complex sites or people who are DIYing. FlyingPress, on the other hand, is a lot more aggressive in terms of speed. And it will be better suited to more technical people, or if you want the site as fast as possible. That said, if you have a more complex website, like a WooCommerce site with a lot of plugins, you probably want to look at WP Rocket. It's going to be more reliable and things are less likely to break. So just keep that in mind. But either way, you need some sort of caching plugin. These plugins also do a lot of other optimizations as well to help the speed. But bottom line, if you don't have a caching plugin, things are going to go slow. So that would be the first stop. The next one would be to use a content delivery network. We recommend using Cloudflare. It's the biggest CDN in the world. It has a whole bunch of other features around security, not just website acceleration. A CDN is essentially a group of servers around the world that serve some or all of the website. So what we're effectively doing here is moving the workload from GoDaddy across onto Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is doing more of the work. So GoDaddy is going to be slower than Cloudflare. So we want Cloudflare to do more of the work. So Cloudflare have free plans, so even on the free plan, it will do a lot for you in terms of performance. There's also a paid plan starting at $5 a month that does something called edge caching. So that makes Cloudflare host even more of the website. So if you can't move off GoDaddy for any reason, that would be a very useful optimization to do. FlyingPress also has a version of that APO service built into it for free. Basically, that feature is called edge caching, or page caching on the CDN. So if you use FlyingPress, you can kind of avoid paying that $5 a month to Cloudflare. There are also other things you can do with security rules. We have a post on our website somewhere. Let me find it for you. This is Cloudflare firewall rules. Cloudflare firewall rules. So you can set up some rules in Cloudflare to filter garbage traffic, brute force attacks, things like that. Here we go, Cloudflare firewall rules for WordPress. Here's the post here. I'll link you up to it. Let's just put that in the description here. There's a few ways we can use Cloudflare here. Basically, this is all about reducing the load. So using Cloudflare by default moves the workload across onto Cloudflare and off GoDaddy, and then using firewall rules, we can filter that traffic. So there's a few firewall rules we'd recommend here. So one is blocking brute force attacks. So that's a very simple one to basically run anyone hitting the logon page on WordPress through a Cloudflare filter, and that'll filter a lot of garbage, automated attacks and scrapers and things like that. Another one we use that's very effective is filtering traffic outside your target country. So what we can do, if you're targeting the US, for example, if your customers are only in the US, any visitor that's outside the US, we can run them through a Cloudflare filter, and that will filter out, it's like essentially like a capture, and that will filter out a lot of the automated traffic, again, garbage crawlers and scrapers hitting the website. And again, the whole point of that is to reduce the load on the website. So using Cloudflare moves the load off the website or off GoDaddy, and then using these firewall rules just reduces the load completely, or significantly. What else do we have? Compress images. This is pretty straightforward. The smaller the pages on the website, the smaller the images, the faster they're going to load. We use this plugin EWW Optimizer. All image optimization plugins are essentially the same. They're all using the same compression libraries. So they're all going to do roughly the same in terms of making the images smaller. There's not going to be really any significant difference between the compression that they do. It might be 1%. It's like nothing. We like EWW Optimizer because it has the plans that has the subscription plans are cheap, and it can also can compress images for free using the web hosting itself. So it doesn't have to dial out to a server to do that. So that's why we use it. We found it to be reliable, good. There's plenty of other options out there as well, but the bottom line is you need to compress images. A couple of other ones specifically for GoDaddy. Using the highest version of PHP that your site supports. So PHP is the programming language that WordPress runs on, and every version of PHP is faster than the last one. So you want to use the highest version your site supports. Now, you can't just go and change the version. You can't, if you're on version 8.0 right now, you can't just change to 8.4. You need to check and make sure your plugins are compatible. So be mindful if you make a change to the PHP version, you need to test things and make sure that things are working. There are some plugins you can use. So WP Engine have a PHP compatibility testing plugin. You can use it on any web hosts. That would be what we recommend doing first before making any changes. So use that plugin to test the new version of PHP to make sure nothing breaks. And then if everything's okay, then go ahead and make the version change. The performance difference can be quite significant, or it could be nothing. So you might get a few percent, it might be 5% better performance. It could be 25% better performance with the PHP version. So keep that in mind. And probably the last one, in terms of, GoDaddy specific things, again, we want to reduce load on the host because it's probably not a high performance plan you're on. Disabling any plugins and any third-party code you're not using, removing stuff from the website will make things faster. So the less plugins you have and the less code that you're running on the website, the faster things are going to go. So again, that's about reducing load, not so much about optimizing. That's pretty much it for this video. I'm just trying to keep it short. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. If you want to dig into the technical how-to, there's this article on our website, how to fix slow GoDaddy. So there's a lot more of the kind of nuance there. We also have some videos on our channel about WP Rocket settings and FlyingPress settings, so check those out. If you want help with your site, we do have this free site audit we offer. If you're looking for paid help, so go to our website and submit a free site audit there if you want help with your GoDaddy situation. This form takes 30 seconds to fill out, and one of the team will review your site and come back to you. Like I said, the free tools there, the free Core Vitals report and the free WordPress speed test. There's also another one there, free SEO audit, and all of those, there's no opt-in required. And as you saw, they're quick to run. So if you need anything else or have any questions, post in the comments below and we'll come back to you. Cheers.